Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy Rich, aka Major Monkey, and hope you guys have been doing good. Hope you guys are having a good week. And yeah, we're gonna be doing a mouse review video today, specifically on the Inca from Lamzu. They were super nice to send me over a unit to review. The video will be just my thoughts and my opinions alone, but yeah, big shout out to Lamzu. Thank you guys so much. Been using the mouse now for about a week and a half, and so I wanted to make this video for you guys. If you guys are new to the channel and my videos, basically how the video is going to go is first part's going to be just a rundown of the specs. The second part is going to be some shape comparisons of the Inca to maybe some mice that you know or also personally use, and just kind of talking about the shape. How does it differ? How does it feel? Stuff like that. And then lastly will be just overall my thoughts and my opinions while using this mouse. What games have I played? How did it feel in those games? Things that I liked, things that I didn't like, stuff like that. And so yeah, thank you guys again. Let's get straight into the video. Alrighty guys, when looking at the Inca, it is selling for $120 on their website. It comes in two colorways, your typical colorways. It has the all black version and the white with black accents. As you can see, we're using the white with black accents. For me personally, as someone who has hyperhidrosis, I try to lean away from all black versions of mice just because they just look like a mess after I'm using them, especially if like it's really warm where I'm living. So yeah, white with black accents. The coating feels really nice, especially with being someone that has hyperhidrosis. The coating has been doing a phenomenal job. I've never been feeling like I'm losing my claw grip at all when using the mouse. So big shout out to the coating, really nice. They are using optical switches for the mouse. It's rocking a 3950 sensor and a Nordic 52840. Haven't had issues with either of that. The weight itself is advertised for 40 grams. Sorry about that. As you'll see here in the picture, I actually weighed mine at 43 and a half. So a little bit of a deviation there. It's a little bit heavier than what it's advertised, but when it comes to mice and their weight, you know, there's always going to be some give or take. It's not going to be exact 40 grams. And, you know, sometimes it's like targeted for 40 and the mouse weighs 40.8, you know, and that's really nice. It's really close to what they, you know, advertised. But there's always going to be some deviation, even between units themselves sometimes. But can I notice that 3.5 grams when I'm using the mouse? No. Do I feel like I was lied to about the weight being 40 and it's 43 and a half? No. It still feels very lightweight. For me personally, it's actually in a sweet spot in terms of weight. I love mice that are kind of in that, you know, upper 30s, low 40s, you know, where it does feel lightweight, but it still feels like you're holding something. Where, you know, in those really low weights for mice, it sometimes feel like you're not even holding something. So Lamzu did a great job with the Inca. I love the weight that it's at. Is it exactly 40? No. Can you tell? Not really, no. When it comes to the polling rate for the mouse, it's not just 8K compatible, and you know, you can spend 15-20 bucks to go get another dongle and then unlock the capabilities of 8K. They actually include the dongle with the mouse at 8K. So that's a big W. I love it when companies do this. I don't think it's that big of a deal to just include a dongle, not having to spend an extra $15-20. So if you're someone that cares about polling rates, it has 8K and it's included with the mouse by default. You do not have to go get some separate dongle. In terms of battery life, it's been performing very normal in terms of my assumptions for 8K. You know, 8K is going to be chewing the heck out of your battery, so don't expect crazy, you know, weeks of not ever having to charge. You know, expect the typical 8K usage, you know, where you'll maybe get a good like 3 to 5 days, depending on how heavy your gaming is. And then obviously if you go lower in the polling rate, you'll then extend the battery life. Overall though, there's the specs. Nothing has, you know, really felt off about the mouse in terms of like the sensor and all that kind of stuff. The dongle is not some crazy flashy dongle like some companies have done. You know, when they go above and beyond for the dongles, I always really appreciate it. It's a really nice cherry on top, but it's not a necessity though. At the end of the day, all I care about is, does the dongle work? Is my mouse disconnecting a lot? And for the Inca, I've had no issues with it. It's been really solid. So yeah, let's get now into some comparisons to some other mice in terms of shapes. Alrighty guys, when talking about, you know, shape comparisons, what is this mouse like? Is there any mouse on the market that is like the Inca? There is one mouse that I have here that I think is very, very close, if not damn near identical to the Inca, with some slight differences that we'll talk about. And then I also have another shape that is not like the Inca, but it's another shape that people like myself who have that preference of a claw grip style, they kind of gravitate towards that kind of shape as well. And so I just wanted to show you one mouse that is very much like the Inca in terms of shape, and then another mouse where it's not like the Inca in terms of the shape, but it's another mouse that claw grip users kind of gravitate towards. And, you know, what are the differences? Do they both hit the goal of being a good claw grip mouse? So yeah, so first mouse we're going to be comparing, as you'll see right now, is the Zowie ZA13DW. Now this mouse, they are different, and when it comes to the measurements, I'm talking like point something percent different. It doesn't even hit 1% different. With the differences though, the ZA13 is slightly taller of a mouse, just slightly. Again, we're not even getting like, it's not even 1% taller. It's like point something percent taller. So it's very, very minute differences with that. The scroll wheel is a little bit more pronounced on the Inca compared to the ZA13. The next noticeable difference will be the sensor positions. The sensor on the Inca is centered, whereas the ZA13 is a little bit more forward than the Inca. Nothing like crazy drastic, but some people can really feel that difference in sensor placements, and so the ZA13 has a little bit more of a forwarded center placement. Then at the front of the mouse, you can see that the ZA13 kind of flares out a little bit and rounds out, whereas the Inca kind of retains its more slimmer kind of profile. When in real use, you might be able to feel that difference, but it's nothing drastic, and that difference really is at the very, very front of the mouse, and so you might possibly not even feel that difference, but it's still a difference nonetheless, and so I just wanted to showcase that for you. In terms of weight, though, there is quite a big difference. The ZA13 is rocking at 65 grams, at least that's what it's advertised at, and then the Inca is advertised at 40 grams. So you're looking at like a 25 gram, give or take, difference. And on top of that, the ZA13 is 4K for the polling rate, whereas the Inca, as we just discussed, is 8K. And so if you are someone who really cares about having, you know, 8K polling, the ZA13 is not really an option, you know. And also price-wise, the Inca is coming in around $20 to $30 cheaper than the ZA13. And so those are definitely some big things to consider when comparing the two mice. Shape-wise, they're very similar. And then when it comes to their specs, it's, you know, that's kind of where it could separate depending on which one you would gravitate more towards. The next mouse we are going to be comparing is the Skyrox V8. And like I said at the beginning, it looks nothing like the Inca, as you can see. You can clearly see the differences in the outlines, but the Skyrox V8 has a shape that, like myself, who prefers a claw grip style, I love using the V8. You know, it's a very, very well-made mouse, and shape-wise, I just love the shape so much. Now, the Inca, when it comes to the hump placement, as you can see, the Inca has a more kind of center back for the peak of that hump, whereas the V8 is pushed all the way to the rear of the mouse. So the humps will feel very different from one another because they are placed differently. The Inca is slightly higher though, and so when it comes to the goal of do both these mice feel really well for a claw grip user, I think they both pass that test easily. Although the humps are different, they both, in their differences, still kind of fill in that palm perfectly. And so just wanted to show you the Skyrox V8 in terms of just that, you know, just that those differences in the hump placement, but overall they still accomplish their goal of being a really solid claw grip style of a mouse. And then lastly, guys, we're going to now be talking about my final thoughts and opinions of the mouse while I've been using it. And so let's get straight over to that. All right, guys. Like I said, I've been using the mouse for about a week and a half now. And what games did I play on it? I played Marvel Rivals, played Valorant, played the finals, and those were kind of like my main three kind of competitive shooter games that I was mainly rocking on. I was trying to get Marathon, but I was not lucky, and I did not get in the playtest. Let me know in the comments below if you got into the Marathon playtest, because if you did, I hate you, and I'm very envious of you. I'm just kidding, but I am envious of you though. That is, I am serious about that. But yeah, those are the main three games that I did play with the mouse. And what did I think of it? Did I like it? Did I hate it? I loved the shit out of this mouse. Like I said, I am a claw grip user, and man, that hump is phenomenal. Again, is it as pushed back as the Skyrox? No, but due to it being higher, it still fills in your hand really, really well. And I just love the placement of the grooves on the mouse. Using it for, Valorant, where it's much slower paced, it felt great. It was awesome. Even when it comes to like the more faster paced games like Marvel Rivals, like the finals, I have zero complaints with it. The mouse felt super nice. Never had issues with it. It always feels super locked in. And for me personally, the side buttons are like perfectly placed. It could be pushed back a little more, but my hand size is very average to smaller hand size. So when it comes to some mice, I sometimes struggle with clicking that front button. As you can see though, when holding it, I can reach the front button very easily. But some mice are a little bit harder than others for me. But yeah, absolutely love the mouse. The main clicks on the mouse, the switches themselves, the optical switches were awesome. Never had an issue with that. The scroll wheel felt great as well. No issues there. Yeah, just overall, really loved my time with the mouse. They did a great job. It's easily my favorite mouse from Lamzu at the moment. I used to love their Atlantis a lot. That was like my entry point with Lamzu. But the Inca, man, that takes the throne from their mice. It's my favorite mouse from them, easily. And when comparing this to something like the V8 from Skyrox, I think this is my new favorite for claw grip. Like I said, I've been loving the heck out of this mouse. And also, one thing you might notice at the bottom of the mouse is I never changed the skates. So as you guys might know if you've watched previous videos, I mainly rock the VantaShift dot skates from Midori, and I love those skates so much. They're my go-tos. But as you can see, they're not on the mouse. Why is that? I've really been liking the default skates on this mouse. I think they did such a great job with them, and so I just haven't taken them off yet. Eventually I will switch over to the VantaShifts, but yeah, just wanted to just highlight that really quick, that they did a great job with the skates, and so much that I just didn't want to take them off. Lastly, I wanted to go over the software, or in this case, they offer a web-based software as well for the Lamzu, which, if you know me, I love web-based software. Please, mouse peripheral companies, keep doing this. Keep doing web-based. I don't want to have to download anything. So yeah, it's nice. Look at it. And so it includes all the stuff that you would typically find in a software for a mouse. Your pulling rates, lift-off distance, sleep time, DPI, competition mode, debounce, motion sync, your battery. It comes with everything. One thing it does include that not every company puts in their software is an angle tune. And so for me personally, I've noticed this with some mice where, based on how I hold the mouse, the sensor is not really, it doesn't click with me that well. And I can kind of notice that when moving around. And so you can actually kind of tune the angle of that and give, as it advertises here, precise horizontal movement with any kind of mouse grip. And so for me personally though, I haven't needed to do that when it comes to this. The way that I hold the mouse is perfect with the sensor, but it's awesome that they include that, because not every company does that. And there have been some mice, don't want to name any names, but I've had some issues with that guy. We'll talk about him later, But I've had some issues with that where like just the way I hold the mouse, it just doesn't mesh well. And so yeah, that's really cool. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching the video. That is all. I cannot give more praise to this mouse. I think they did a great job. It's easily my favorite mouse from Lamzu, and I highly recommend it. If you're interested in this kind of mouse, yeah, I recommend you buy it. I think it's awesome. I think compared to the Zowie mouse, if you're a diehard Zowie fan, then well, you're gonna pick up the Zowie one. But the Lamzu is cheaper, it weighs less, it offers more in terms of like polling rate, and so yeah, I think they did a great job. I recommend the mouse. Big thumbs up. Thank you again, Lamzu, for sending the mouse over. And yeah, check you guys in the next video. See ya.